Derek, South Carolina is off to a 2-0 start, and I know that you'd like to draw up just a walk-away win against Southern Miss in Game 2, but you got 11 new players. There were 27 kids between the two rosters the other night when they met who had transferred into their program, so you really don't know who anybody is anymore. It takes a while to kind of get there. But what more can you say being courtside kind of for that ball game the other night? What more can you say about this team being down 11 points with just a couple of minutes to go and finding their way back, obviously led by the big-time threes from Meechie Johnson?
Well, I mean, there's something that, you should never take for granted, a team that will fight back from a late game deficit like that, because when folks are picking up their stuff and walking out of the gym because they think it's over, then that's something that I'm sure the players, they're focused on the game, but they can see that if they're coming out of a timeout, they can see in the crowd folks are leaving. And Meechie especially was unwilling to buy into that. And he hit some huge shots for this team. He hit some shots that you wouldn't ask him to make in a game of horse. He made them in game conditions and really sparked the comeback. Had some contributions from other guys, obviously Eli Ellis and Miles Studi hitting big shots as well. But, boy, you just have to be so encouraged because, those sorts of losses, you take them early in the year and they can hang around your neck and just be an albatross. Whether you are focused on things like, net rankings and KenPom ratings, or if you're just talking about trying to represent yourself as a name brand in a sport where you maybe don't always get the credit you'd like to see. Losses to schools that have rankings around 300, man, that's tough. That's hard to shake those off. And so when you can have one of those staring you in the face and get out from under it and get the win, because, a month from now, nobody will be talking about the way that game went down. It'll just be a win or a loss. In this instance, it's a win, and it keeps South Carolina trending in the right direction. And as this young, I say young because I think of this roster not having a ton of time together, this new roster continues to kind of gel, and the coaches have a chance to figure out what pieces fit where. Then it's going to be important, that you have positive steps like this you can learn from. And LP said as much post-game. After the NC State game, he told me, he said, you know what? It's an exhibition. I'm kind of glad we didn't win that because we really let it get away. And these guys wouldn't have appreciated what I pointed out to them on film as much if it were in a win. Mm-hmm. And he told me after this game, same sort of feeling insofar as, boy, I'm glad it worked out the way it did because, you had the opportunity there to have one get away from you. You didn't. It's kind of best case scenario in that you made that great comeback and then you closed it out, got the win in overtime, and can really hopefully have some things to build upon with the way that game ended.
I'd also like to compliment the Gamecocks for ignoring the distraction of Israel Hart's hair. It's probably the worst hairdo I've ever seen. No disrespect to the Hart family. I'm sure they're fine people. But whomever his barber may be, they've got some work to do. That was rough. That is such an interesting point. Lamont, Derek, I mean, you're around Lamont so much, and every chance we get to spend with him really is a pleasure. He is really neat to talk to. He's a lot of fun. He's very honest. When I was watching him on the sideline in that game the other night, I found myself thinking there's a different energy in Lamont Paris right now than I feel like I've seen in a while. It's almost like kind of a kid who's got a bunch of new toys in his playroom. Like he's trying to figure this thing out. And obviously they're in the middle of that. You could tell. But, he was, when we had him on, he was just, I mean, the things he was saying about some of these guys, and then you see how he's kind of coaching them out there. He knows he's got good young pieces that are really good. He knows he's got a Meechie. He likes his guys, and he's just kind of trying to figure out piece for piece where things are. How much of that do you think they have figured out through, 80, what is that, 80 minutes of basketball?
Not much, because I mean, there's still so many scenarios you've got to figure out. Guys, who fits in what role. Like, they rolled out that 1-3-1 late, and that was huge in turning that game around. That's not something they've worked on a ton. He likes it. He feels like when this defense was very effective 2 years ago, it was Zach Davis out on top of that 1-3-1. Now you got Mike Sharif-Jumps, similar, body style, that they've got length, but they've got athleticism out there. And so, that was kind of a shot in the dark, but it worked. And so that's something you can build upon. And he told me, I guess, Saturday at practice, he was just being pretty frank, saying, I don't, this is not the style of play I want to be playing right now. And he explained to me, when we scheduled this game last year, Southern Miss did not defend at all the way they're defending now. But Jay Ladner, talk about hitting a reset button. He not only has an entirely new roster, he's got an entirely new coaching staff, 4 new assistant coaches. When Case comes over from Ole Miss, brings some of the things that they were doing early on in the Chris Beard regime. And LP just told me, he goes, I don't want to play this kind of defense right now. It's a junk defense. It's very unique, and it can cause you to struggle in some things that you wouldn't normally struggle. It reminded me of last year after South Carolina lost that opener to North Florida, and he came over and sat down and he just said, that's bad scheduling on our part. That's not the kind of team, the way they play, that we needed to play in our first game. And in this instance, he didn't say it's bad scheduling. It was bad luck that you scheduled a team and then the coach just hit the nuclear button and said, we're doing something completely different. And so he expected there would be some struggles. And, like you said, when you come roaring out of the gate, make your first 4 shots, and you've got 11 points on the board before anybody can blink, you think, okay, well, maybe that was, false concern. Making a mountain out of a molehill. No, it wasn't at all. Those threes dried up for a while, and South Carolina did not have an ability to get anything going on the interior. And some of that has to do with that unique defense that Southern Miss was playing. Some of it is still a question mark of, where are the post touches going to come from for this team that doesn't have an obvious person to fill that bill. And then, the other side of it was Southern Miss just played with great energy. And if you think about how bad that trip was for them, with the flight delays, they didn't get in Saturday night until like 10 p.m. They were stuck because they fly commercial. They had awful travel delays. And after South Carolina threw that haymaker at them in the first 2 minutes of the game, their response to me was very impressive. I felt so bad for them. I'm, talking to their crew when they're packing up because of what's going on right now, or what has been going on with the government shutdown. Their flight returning home on Monday had been canceled, and they were going to be maybe even Tuesday before they could get back to Hattiesburg. So they were hopping on the bus after that game, and they were going to bus back to Hattiesburg. And talk about a tough night, man. You play your butts off, you lose a heartbreaker in overtime, and then somebody says, get on the bus. We're going to be, riding along for how many ever hours that turns into. Probably, 10 hours, probably at least. Yuck.
Yeah.
So I felt for those guys. I really did, because they played hard. And I'll be curious to see where they show up in the Sun Belt this year, because they've got some pieces, and that defense could be a headache for lots of other teams besides just South Carolina.
Derek, Rob Williams here. Nice to see you. I know that Lamont was on the record saying this is the deepest roster that he's had. Can we just expect there to be a longer learning curve? Kind of what you've already hinted at,
Yeah.
But he's going to continue to play with the roles that you said. Do you see that as a tripping point, or is that going to ultimately something that this team can overcome the learning curve, and then it becomes a strength later in the SEC schedule?
I think both. I don't expect it to be a tripping point, but it certainly could be. And I definitely think it'll be a benefit as the season goes along. I think the way he built this schedule, he's trying to give himself a longer runway in that regard, not to take anything for granted. As we saw Sunday, anybody can jump up and get you. And I, just looking at Presbyterian last night scares me to death. They've got size. Who would have thought that'd be what you're worried about with PC, right? I mean, they've got two legitimate post presence guys. And South Carolina, if you've watched them so far, that's one of the big question marks. Who's going to be a rim protector for this team? So I expect tomorrow night to be a handful, as it was with PC last year, obviously, for different reasons, though. But no, I definitely think it can be beneficial to this team in the long haul because injuries come. You're going to get guys dinged up. You need others that can fill roles. And he started moving Miles Studi into playing the 4 a little bit more, and a little bit in that opener he had Butler and also Sondiko on the floor at the same time. I mean, he's trying some different things, and I think that's all to be expected for a roster that has this many new pieces this early in the season.
I would say that that's the most concerning thing, personally speaking, Derek. When I look at this team, we're going to get to the 3-pointers, all that stuff in just a second, and I know that Kreist only played about a minute and 40 seconds the other night, but Butler and Strong had a combined 23 minutes, and between those 3 players, they had 0 points. So I'm curious to see what they're going to do to get that group going. It's great to see all the threes go in. There's no doubt about that. I mean, this team hasn't been able to shoot it like this that I can remember. And hell, I don't even remember they've ever shot as many threes as they're shooting. But you still have to find points in the paint. They didn't have one from that trio the other night.
Yeah, I've said this before, I think, with you guys. I know I've said it on the air. I have expectations for Elijah Strong to be a guy that can really contribute to this team offensively. And I do think that the defensive alignment they were dealing with was disruptive for a lot of guys. But you're right. There's no question. So far, that is the question mark. Who's going to fill those minutes, and can you prove to be not just, we talk about post touches, but let's talk about the defensive side of things. I mean, Southern Miss attacked the paint all night long. And if you don't have that rim protector, that's, that can be a headache because you're going to see plenty of teams that will watch film and come at you in a similar manner. Or you're going to see teams like we'll see tomorrow night where it's about low post guys and who's going to be able to deny them their opportunities because, that's going to be, I think, for PC certainly tomorrow, that's going to be a focus is let's test these guys at the rim.
Yeah, and it's such an interesting situation too because Lamont has told all of us what the identity of the team is. Like, hey, threes count more than twos. We're going to shoot threes. We have guys who are capable of shooting threes, and most times, the 5 guys that are on the floor, all of them are capable of popping out there and firing one off. So you don't want to take away the identity of your team. So it is a little bit of a challenge for him, and we'll see if he can get him there. I found it so interesting at the end of the game on Sunday night, Derek. And Eli Ellis at this point is just to be expected. I get it, but it still matters that him and Hayden Simeon were both on the floor in such a crucial time for this team to find a way to win the game. You got 2 freshmen, true freshmen, out there on the floor, and they had a combined 56 minutes between the two in this ball game. I mean, he's been open about a Simeon and his energy level and things like that. I just find it hard for their minutes to decrease. I only see them increasing, both of them. He likes both those guys. That they're becoming focal points of this Gamecock basketball team.
Yeah, you're right, Eli. I think we all understand. If you're a fan of this team, you've watched, the first 3 games, counting the exhibition. Nothing you saw out there could probably surprise you. I hear others that haven't watched that closely that are almost seemingly shocked that Eli is not getting overwhelmed. And it is funny to hear the narrative from people who really thought this guy's just an Instagram star, or this guy, he's not going to be able to come in and compete on this level. He's going to get overwhelmed. Not happening. He's a fighter, man. Gosh, he's a fighter. And as far as Simeon, plus minus is one of those things you can find on a stat sheet. Take it for what it's worth, but he was plus 19, man. I mean, when he was on the floor, things went well. And you think about how much of that game things didn't go well. To be plus 19, that can't all be by accident, especially when we're talking about a guy who didn't score a single point, didn't take a single shot. He's doing some things that the coaches like that most of us probably, without having it shown to us on film, might not truly gather and understand, even to the point that the last possession in regulation, they took that timeout and came out and he was still on the floor. Now that surprised me. I thought, okay, we're not going to defend anymore in this game. It's whatever we got left on the clock. This is going to be an offensive possession. And then they committed an immediate foul on Meechie, which was odd. But I did think that was interesting that he was still out there. He was someone they felt like they wanted to include in that possession. So no, they clearly like Hayden a lot. And like I said, if you go to practice, you see the energy, man. He brings it every single day. And then the other thing about that is he missed a bunch of practice time between the exhibition and the opener. And for a lot of freshmen, if you're out of the rotation for a few days, you can really get lost. And that clearly isn't something that has happened with him. So, yeah, good signs there. I still think Grant Polk is going to be a guy that can play a role for this team just because if they're going to shoot this many threes, he's got the best stroke on the team. So, yeah, I think the freshmen are still going to, have to be impactful for this team to have success. And I don't just mean Eli.
Yeah, it's pretty. K-Pitch has a nice shot as well. I know he only fired off, I think, 2 the other night. The Eli Ellis, he's so mature for being a true freshman. And then the other night when he made that silly foul after the inbound, watching Lamont, but obviously the kid can handle that. I mean, that's what their relationship is fantastic. And that was part of what I was describing earlier with Lamont Paris. Like, you see this energy in him where he's connected to it. Like, that was such a teaching moment for him. Like, you can't foul there. Appreciate the energy. No, you want to go for the ball. No, you want to make a play. You can't foul there. We'll wrap it up with Meechie. You've known Meechie now for a long time. What was it like spending time with? How much time did you spend with him after the ball game the other night, and just the vibe that he was giving off? How thankful and appreciative he was for that moment that he put himself in and executed.
I didn't get to see Meech at all post game because he went over to do TV.
Oh, the damn
TV guy. I got to talk with Eli. We're doing, still trying to do a post game interview with a player after a win. We got Eli, and let me backtrack a little bit before I answer your question, because again, I can't really say much about anything I saw with Meech. I can just tell you what Lamont told me. But with Eli, I'll just be honest with you. I've been doing this a long time. Player interviews, I don't like if somebody says, hey, we've got some sound from so-and-so. I don't pay a lot of attention to player interviews because they're kids, man.
Yeah.
They haven't seen that much of life to have thoughts that I think are truly noteworthy. If they're fun guys, that's great and all. But most of them haven't. They just, they're going to say a lot of the things they've heard said before about players. Every once in a while, you run into one who gives you some candid answers, and they're thoughtful answers. They're rare, man. They're really rare. A guy I knew way back in the day, his name's Gino Ford. He's the head coach at Stony Brook now. Gino was a better interview at Ohio University when he was a freshman than a lot of coaches are. I mean, he was a son of a coach. Well, guess what Eli Ellis is? Son of a coach. He reminds me of Gino, and nobody else will know Gino but me. But it's just he's going to be one of those guys who's going to be, I think, a real thoughtful basketball quote while he's here. So I was really I posted that interview on X yesterday because I thought that's a guy who people are going to want to hear from. But back to your point, yeah, Meech, I didn't get to talk to him. By the time I get off the air and get downstairs to grab something to eat, players are, they're gone. But I know in talking to Lamont, as he pointed out so perfectly, this is why he came back, guys. These are the moments that he realizes he can fulfill here, that he wasn't going to get that opportunity anywhere else. And a lot of that has to do with how he and Lamont are always seemingly on the same page. Every game's not going to be a 30-point game or even a 20-point game. but they are aligned so well that, that's the big thing, is not what he's saying to anybody else, just what those two can talk about. And the funny thing was, the other day, LP had been up in Meechie's hometown doing a little recruiting, closely connected to the family and so forth. Meechie's uncle, Sonny, is a coach up there. And Meech was giving him grief about, wait a minute, I don't want to throw any shade on the restaurant they went to, but Meechie was saying, you're telling me you went to Cleveland and you went to dinner at blank? And it was, they're really connected so well that it's entertaining just to watch them interact, even if you're not a third party in the conversation. I just enjoy watching how LP and Meech engage with each other, because that's a really good relationship there that is, everybody else benefits from how well those two are connected, I think.
Well, it's great for this team. But a couple of years ago, we had an extension of the coaching staff running the point in Talon Cooper. You've got that in Meechie Johnson now. He's the clear leader of this team. He's a different player from Talon, the old man, as Derek used to call him. But of course, Meechie's he's an elder in college basketball these days too.
He's pretty old now too.
But he doesn't move like an old man.
Southern Miss had the third oldest guy in all of college basketball out there, and I swear his name's Kurt Lewis. He's been everywhere and then some. And boy, you start looking at that birth date and you go, my gosh, how crazy things are now. But yeah, there's a lot of guys who are fifth and sixth year guys now, so they all qualify like Coop did. Coop just walked around and looked the part a little bit more to me. So
there's no doubt, and that's who Lamont likes to start too. Someone made the mention of Eli in the rotation. I think Eli's going to come off the bench for the foreseeable future. That's a good spot for him right now, and for this basketball team. Maybe one day he gets into the lineup, but it doesn't matter. Eli's going to play plenty of basketball. It's not just about being the first one on the floor. All right, Derek. Tomorrow night, Carolina will tip against Presbyterian, the Blue Hose, 7:00 at home, Colonial Life Arena. Looking to go 3-0. If you can't make it in, it's a 6:30 airtime on the Gamecock Sports Network. Correct, sir?
Yes, sir. Should be fun.